screen recording, and I want to explain how we are going to hand in our homework. We're going to use GitHub to do this, and this is a very useful process um, to learn, not just for Hack Your Future, but this is also how, when you're working at a company, how you will commit your changes. There's a process where you write your own code in your own environment, and once you think it's done, you're going to try to get it back into the real code base. And often this involves a process of Q&A, and Q&A means um, there's multiple ways to abbreviate it, but quality and assessment or quality assurance, like but they all come down to the same concept, which is we're going to have a process in place for before saying, okay, this can be part of the real code base. For example, in big companies, there will be automated tests running first and seeing, okay, if there's a green light coming from the tests, then you go to the next stage. And that often is a peer review. So a peer review means, so it's also in science, that you will have one or two people who know about this stuff to also check what you've done. So because we are not working in one company, normally you would in one repository be able to branch. But because that will make too many branches for us, we're gonna fork the repo. So what you need is two things. First, you need a GitHub account. You all have that. And two, you need to be a member of, in this case, the Hack Your Future organization. If you're not a member of Hack Your Future, in this case we are class 7, and I added all of you guys to the class 7 team, which directly makes you a member of this repository, of this organization, and thus also the repository. So just to make it clear, what we are going to do is, let me just draw this out first because it's confusing. So we have one root repository. In this case, it's called Angular class 7. So our goal is so this is the Hack Your Future organization, and then there's you or me. Is what we're going to do is we're going to fork, work here, and then get this back in here. But there's one thing that we're going to do a little bit different. This is how it would normally go. You work here, and you get your code back in here. But because this is homework, we're not actually trying to modify the main repo. We're not going to actually get our code back in there, but we're going to make an attempt to get it in there. Why is that? Because GitHub, for merging two pieces of code, has this very useful thing which is called a pull request, and I know all of you know how to do that. But let me just show you the flow. So we're working Angular class 7. For some modules, if this, let's say this video is also used by other modules, this can also be empty, like an empty module. But so why do we still need to have this and not just work all in our all repository? Because the repository is going to be the place where all these pull requests are going to come back to. In this case, so the pull request that we're going to make is going to show all the differences in the files that we're going to have. And I just want to see the stuff that you guys have been writing, and I don't want to have to sort of scroll through the 10,000 lines that Angular CLI made for us. So I already did the ng init, or the ng new, sorry, for us. So this is just so after this you still need to do, like this is specific for Angular, you still need to do npm install, right? So this is the because no modules is in git ignore, as you can see in this file. So this is what we're going to do. The end result should be a pull request like this. First, we're going to make this step, which is getting a copy of this repo into our personal space. In this because this is a public repository, and the ones you're gonna, then it also means that what you're gonna make can be public. But if you're working for a company, make sure that you never fork something that is private to something public. First of all, you don't want code to be shared, and sometimes people are, and I promise you that happens more often than you think. People put, for example, passwords to master databases and stuff in their Git repository, because it's and then if you accidentally do a public fork, then everybody can, like, you have a major issue. So in this case, it's fine. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to first fork. So how do we fork? Top right, there's this button here, fork. So I have two other organizations. So I already have it forked. So let me, sorry, just to not confuse you guys, let me first remove that repo. So Daan Aerts, that's my personal organization, so to speak. So Angular class 7. Let me first remove that, just to show you guys the flow. Delete. Yes. Okay, back to, so that I already did that step. So HackYourFuture Angular class 7, fork, and then I also am a member of these two organizations. And I don't know what it looks like if you just have one, but in this case, so we're going to say Daan Aerts. And then get this funny screen. Okay, and then the next step is cloning this so we can start working. So you can see that GitHub already sees here that we're like it already is aware of this process here. So you can see it's really made to do this. It's already, it can see those two versions together. So we're gonna clone this. So for this, of course, you need to have your CLI set up properly so that it knows that Git is connected with GitHub. So we're gonna go up, and for example, I'm gonna clone it, HackYourFuture. So I think it's already there. So I'm just gonna say make dir blah blah, just to not make it conflict with the other one. So I'm gonna say git clone. And you can see that the URL is Daan Aerts and not HackYourFuture. So make sure the one you're cloning is the one that's your personal one. Some of you have accidentally made real commits to the master branch of the HackYourFuture repo. I've locked that now to prevent that from happening, but just to make sure we don't want to ever modify the HackYourFuture master branch. So now I'm going to go in there. So my CLI already knows that we're in Git. So looks good. We could do an npm install right now and start working for ourselves. So this is how it would look like, npm install, and then we start doing our own homework. In this case, I'm going to skip doing our own homework, doing npm install, because I don't want to run it. I just want to show you that it is. So yeah, sure.
npm install, if you install it already for another project, you need to reinstall again for every project.
Yeah, so the question is regarding npm install. So if we did npm install for another project before, do we need to do it again? So the answer is definitely yes, because what does npm install do? In this case, as you can see, I'm doing ls. There is no node modules.
Yeah.
And the node modules are all the locally installed npm modules. And if that's not installed, and that's why we're always saying save or save dev, you saw that before?
Yeah.
Because all of that, if we print package.json, package.json, you can see these are all the dependencies that our project needs to run before we can do ng-serve. So I will do it after all. npm install, so if you don't give it any commands, it will go to package.json and basically redo all of those commands. npm install Angular common, npm install Angular compiler. Like, it will just do all of those things for us. It will
I did the same steps, but when I push to repository, it went to my repository. Not to
yeah, that's good. You're supposed to do it. You're skipping ahead. Let me show you what's gonna happen. So while that npm install is happening, so you can see that now already in node modules it's still being made. So we were making a change. So this is, for example, we make a change to the HTML file, and let's also make some changes here. App works. Okay, so now we have 2 changes. Let's make sure that's true. You can also say git diff to see, like it knows exactly these are the 2 changes that we made, and we want to make sure that only the work that we actually want to do, because that's often something that you will see, that sort of people are playing around in other files when you work at a company. I'm not looking at you. You're giving me that face, but I'm not talking about you. But you want to be as small as possible with your change. Why? Anything else you do is going to be able, like, it can create a bug, and you wanted to make sure that just what you're. So we made these 2 changes. So what are we going to do? We are first going to commit this. First, we need to git add first. Yeah, very good. Git add -a for git add all files. If we do git status again now, you can see that here it wasn't changed stage for commit. Here they are staged. So git commit. Right? I made my homework. And we're going to say git push. And I think we might need to give it a, because we're doing it for the first time, we need to give it a remote origin.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
It was okay.
Yeah. Okay. So
this still, the remote origin and master origin and all, still it's unclear to me.
Okay, we'll I'll explain that. Well, maybe this helps a little bit. If you do git branch -a,
To know the whole branch.
you can see also the remote branches. So the first time, sometimes if you make a, for example, if you want to make a new branch, the first time, then you have to also create the remote branch first. But if you want, I can explain that after this video. It's a little bit outside of the scope.
I'm going to put in the Slack one article that explains Git flow, so it makes clear this.
Cool. Nice.
Why,
So,
the reason why.
so let's see what happens, because we pushed. So if all went well, we should see here a commit a minute ago. Okay, cool. So as you can see, GitHub is still aware of this divergence. So what we did is we made some changes here, and we pushed that to our own version. So we're here now, and now we need to get it back in. So far you might be thinking, why are we doing this? But now you're going to see all the goodness of that. So you can see compare. So that's true. This is what we just did. And GitHub, as you can see, it's super sort of inviting us to do this. So now comes a funny thing. It still knows that we once branched off the HackYourFuture version, and then it's going to invite us to make a pull request. So let's go back to compare, or you can click directly to pull request. Let's make sure. Create pull request. And it already, sometimes you have to specify this yourself. In this case, it is aware of other guys as well. But, so I'm saying base fork. So what does that mean? It means the direction, because if we can also flip this around, but then we will be doing this, which can be useful. For example, if changes were made here in the original repo, we might also want to get them back in our folder. But that's not what we're doing right now. We've made changes in our version and want to make that in the HackYourFuture branch. So the base one is the one you're going into, and then the head is where you're going from. So we're going from our repo to the repo, to the HackYourFuture repo.
So if I need to get any updates in the master, basically I just reverse.
Exactly. So
the base would be my own fork.
Exactly.
One, and then
you could do that a little bit easier than the pull request, but for now that's true. So we could say, so I did this, create pull request. We could even start Well, let's just first create it, and then I want to show you some next steps. So Daan created this pull request. So you can see I've set this repo up in such a way that we first need someone to approve the pull request before you can pull it in. And this is very good practice also. If you're going to work in for example, with your app, this is very good. If you're working with multiple people, it just prevents accidental commits to master. And this is just sort of putting some checks and balances in the system. So for now, if you hand in your homework Thursday 9 a.m., then I'm not going to ask you one of your peers to review it. If you have time, so please be earlier than that. Assign one of your friends to look at it. For example, Iris, can you? So now I invited Iris to review my. This is also how it's going to work in those companies. Many companies say you need at least 2 peer reviews, and then you can do that. So many other cool stuff you can do with this. Like I use this a lot in my projects. For example, you can say this is part of version 1.2. This needs to be finished for that. Or milestones. This is part of, I don't know, some big next release that you're working towards. And okay, so now maybe, well, can I now start my own review? I think not. That's the difficult part. So I'm now going to switch to one of the other pull requests, which were filed in the exact same way. For example, I already did EATs, so let's take a look at yours. So you made some changes. So you made some changes to the CSS. So for example, I'm going to review this. Okay, so I'm going to say CSS classes should be named hyphen case, so name input. So this is one of the things that you would want to do in a peer review, seeing is your code in line with our coding style guide. And then in the end, you can say 2 things. So again, this is relatively new in GitHub. It's super useful. Is sometimes, like in this case, we would have, because there's something that I just said, you need to change this before I'm going to approve it. But in this case, I'm going to pretend that everything's well, all looks good. Submit review. So now you can see that this is all well. Sometimes changes have already been made to the master branch since you've done stuff. We're not going to look at that because we're now really focusing at homework. The most important thing is fork it, create that pull request, because then even though I can still change so I can say view changes. So this is basically the main reason why I want to use this system for the homework, is because I can go directly to your changes and I can see exactly what you guys have been doing, and I can make comments, and maybe, for example, Ayat, take a look. He did, like, it's super useful. You can put some links in here so that you can have a real conversation about the code. So we already approved it. And then comes one important thing. I don't know if you guys can do it because I just set up protection, but just in case there's this big green button that says push me here, don't. Because we don't want other guys to see your, I mean, it's fine to see each other's code, but we don't want to, this is just a dummy homework setup. So that's the flow. Stop.